Today on Sugar Spun Run, I'll be showing you how to make risotto. Hey Sugar Spun Bakers, Sam here, and today I am really excited to be sharing another carefully tested, well-researched, and perfected recipe. Now, risotto generally has kind of a reputation for being a little bit fussy and difficult to make, and I totally don't understand that because honestly it's one of my favorite side dishes because I think it is so easy. It does require a little bit of extra attention, but it's nothing that you can't do while you're preparing something else right beside it on the stovetop or in the oven. So let's go ahead and jump right in. Now first I want to talk about your ingredients. First thing that you're going to need is 1 heaping cup of rice, and this isn't just any rice, you want to use Arborio rice. You're also going to need 4 tablespoons of butter, and I do use unsalted butter. Now, risotto only uses a handful of ingredients, so when you can, you want to use as high of a quality of ingredient as possible. So I like to use European butter. It just adds a better flavor to the dish. You're also going to need 4 cups of chicken broth, and I always use regular salted chicken broth. I don't use low sodium. If you do, you may just need to add more salt to your dish at the end. You also need 1/4 cup of white wine. I'm just using Pinot Grigio here today. I am not a wine connoisseur, so this is just what was a good price at my local supermarket. You'll also need 1 medium onion and a heaping cup of freshly shredded Parmesan cheese. Make sure this is nice, freshly shredded Parmesan, or shred your own if you can get your hands on some. We're also going to be using some fresh parsley as well, and I like to use freshly ground black pepper. You won't necessarily need to use salt, but I always like to have some handy just in case you need to add some at the end. So let's begin by preparing our onion. Now, you're going to want to really finely chop this, so I have small little pieces here. And I'm also going to finely chop my parsley. You'll need about a heaping cup of onion and about just a tablespoon of parsley. So we have those prepped, so let's go ahead and go over to our stovetop. Now you're going to want to grab a small saucepan, place this over medium heat, and we're going to add our broth. Typically when you're making risotto, you want to have a pot of broth that's nice and warm. That way, as we're gradually adding it to our rice, it's not slowing down the cooking process. So it's going to ensure that everything cooks evenly and as quickly as possible. While that broth is warming, you're going to want to grab a larger saucepan, and we'll place this on the stovetop over medium heat. We're also going to add 3 tablespoons of our butter into the dish. Now you'll need 4 tablespoons total, but we're just using 3 of those for now. Now once this is nice and melted, we're going to add our onion. We'll just cook the onion until it's nice and translucent. Now risotto is super versatile, so if you wanted to add other ingredients, you can add it. You can make this whole dish into a meal if you'd like. Sometimes I like to add garlic, and I usually add that right when the onion's just about finished cooking. So now that my onion is ready, I'm going to add my rice. Now the important thing here is that I just continue to stir the rice and I get every grain coated with some of that butter. So see right here, it's still a little dry. I'm just going to keep going. So now that all of the grains are nicely covered, I like to continue to cook the rice for just about another minute. Once I can begin to smell the rice, like a little bit of that toasty fragrance, that's when I will add my wine. Now you only need 1/4 cup of wine. We'll just add that right in. Now we're going to cook this wine until we've cooked all the alcohol out of it. And you know you've cooked it all out when, first of all, you can't see it in the pan anymore, but also, like if you try to smell some of that, you don't smell the alcohol anymore. You don't get that strong burn of alcohol in the back of your nose. So at this point, we're ready to start adding our broth. Now, I'm just going to use a large ladle, and I'm going to add about a 1/2 cup, I just eyeball it, but about a 1/2 cup of broth at a time. So now that I've added that 1/2 cup, I'm just going to stir the rice frequently. Now I want to stir and continue to cook it until just about all of that liquid has been absorbed. Okay, so after about a minute or so, this is looking pretty good. You can see it's not really soupy or wet anymore, so I'm going to add another 1/2 cup of the broth. So it is important that you add this broth slowly and you wait until the rice has absorbed all of the broth before you add any more. This is key to making a good risotto. Now, this is where risotto gets its reputation for being super fussy, which I don't think it is. Now, yes, it requires pretty frequent attention and you do want to stir that frequently. However, if you've got another pan and you're cooking chicken breast in the pan next to it, or if you have a dish you can prepare and pop it in the oven, it's very easy to just frequently stir the rice, but also be preparing another dish. I make this all the time while I'm preparing another dinner. Our risotto's in a pretty good place now, so I'll add a bit more broth. We'll stir everything again. Now, risotto only takes about 20-25 minutes max to prepare. I'll say if you count the prep work, it's easily done in under 30 minutes. And that's why I really don't understand how it got such a reputation for being a difficult dish when it really isn't. Now, once you've added almost all of your broth, you can begin to taste the rice to see when it's done. The best way to tell if it's done is if you taste it and it tastes al dente, which means it's still firm, but it's cooked all the way through. This one still needs a little bit more time. It's possible that you won't need all of your broth, and it's also possible that you might need a little bit more. If you don't have more broth, you can just add a little bit more hot water. Now, I personally never needed to use more than 4 cups. Another good visual indicator to know that your risotto is done is if you push your spatula through it, as you can see, the rice is slowly rolling back onto itself. It's not really fast rushing back, it's not too liquidy, it's kind of creamy, and it's just slowly rolling back together. This looks pretty good, so I'm gonna give it another taste. So the texture is perfect, but the risotto doesn't have a lot of flavor yet. Don't panic, we're going to be adding a lot of flavor in just a minute. Now I'm gonna turn off my heat, and you might notice I used almost all of my broth, but not every last drop of it. And now I'll add that last tablespoon of butter and that fresh parmesan. We'll stir that together. Oh, I almost forgot, here's where I like to add the pepper. I usually start with about a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. Now once the butter and parmesan are all melted and stirred together, we're also going to add our parsley. We'll mix that in. And of course you'll want to taste again, and if you need to, you can add more salt or more pepper. Since the parmesan has a lot of salt itself and so does the broth, I usually don't need to add any salt. This is perfect, so let's go ahead and scoop ourselves a nice big bowl of that. And that is how you make perfect, creamy, delicious risotto. I hope you guys enjoyed today's recipe, and if you try this one out, please let me know what you think. I always love hearing from you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. So good.